Hey gang, today I want to talk about the new Space Marine class Techmarine. It's not out yet, but I thought we could have a look with some guesses from Tabletop to how it would play, the extra weapons, how the Tarantula works, and the heroic weapons that they're bringing in. There was an Xbox article the other day that came out that confirmed some of my assumptions, so we're going to have a look at that as well. For the perks that were data mined, we have the major class ability, the servo gun, unleash a powerful servo gun volley. This will be an activate button for the player controller to override the AI shooting for a little while. From some of the perks, it sounds like it's AI targeting with basic bullets, but it can be used with the heavy stance sniper scope extra button to do a special shot, but the gun strike has been confirmed to be an automatic shot for the servo gun. On Tabletop, this is a forge bolter or a heavy bolter. It'll probably have short auto bursts with quick self-reloads between the bursts. In Legends, it could shoot when other weapons were shot and then also be fired manually at the same shooting phase. I'm leaning towards auto-targeting on closest enemy unless priority target override perks are enabled, and using the extra button for use. Previous posts say ability to have the servo gun automatically engage enemies, so possibly to turn that off into a manual use as well. The starting perk is you can detect and activate Tarantula Sentry guns. They will attack nearby enemies until they run out of ammo or are destroyed. On Tabletop, these have 2 wounds, 3+ saves, and 4 toughness. They're kind of fragile, with automated fire protocols, only firing at enemies in range, but cannot be selected in the shooting phase. Obviously on Tabletop, ammo is unlimited, but unsure how much ammo they will be given in the game, and they're kind of fragile on Tabletop. 2 wounds isn't ideal, but possible low health and a ton of ammo, or low ammo and more health. On Tabletop, most abilities are to do with repairing vehicles, and looking at the perks, they look like they've kind of kept this, but instead of vehicles, it's repairing the sentry guns. Onto the player-selected perk options, we have the Tier 2 perks, Explosive Enfilade. After using equipment, your range damage increases by string 1 for string 2 seconds. This is probably going to be a 15-20% range increase for like 10 seconds. It's kind of the average that we already have on perks like this in Space Marine 2. It's also a nice little throwback to the old Dark Angels Codex Techmarine, which had a extra range compared to a normal Techmarine. That's kind of fun. The second Tier 2 perk is Precision Enhancement. The servo gun locks onto a single target and fires a powerful precision shot. This is like kind of turning your servo gun into a sniper rifle, which would be quite nice, especially if it had that high damage that you would expect from an equivalent sniper rifle. The last one for Tier 2 is Plasma Enhancement. Similar to the previous one, the servo gun now fires exploding plasma projectiles at enemies, so this is a more AoE servo gun upgrade compared to the sniper one, kind of like an opposing weapon choice for it, depending how you want to play. Moving on to Tier 3 perks, we have Arc Cleave. Damage from charged melee attacks increased by string. This will most likely just play as an overcharge perk, which can be seen on Bulwark and Assault already. Then we have Methodical Destruction. Enemies damaged by equipment take string 1 more damage for string 2 seconds. So equipment is things like grenades and melter bombs, so it'll probably be a 15-20% buff, again for 10 seconds, kind of the average. It might be good if you have an equipment regen perk as well. Next is the Omniscient Axe Deflection. After a perfect parry or perfect block, you take string 1 less damage from ranged attack for string 2 seconds. This will also again be 15-20% for about 10 seconds. The Tier 4 perks, we have Explosives Adept. Damage from equipment increasing by a string. This is probably going to be 15-20%. It seems kind of redundant with Methodical Destruction, and worse as it has no timer. Push the advantage. After a finisher, your melee weapon deals string 1 more damage for string 2 seconds. Again, 15-20% for about 10 seconds. This kind of sounds like the Assault Combat Doctrine with the Honor Vehement enhancement from the Gladius Task Detachment, which adds 2 to the attacks and strength of melee weapons for the Techmarine. It's a really nice enhancement to have on Tabletop, so it's cool to see it interpreted in Space Marine 2. Long Range Barrage. Range damage at ranges greater than string 1 meters increased by string 2. Probably about 20 meters for 15-20%. If the range is too high, then it might be kind of annoying, as some of the maps are kind of small, or you get stuck in an area that is kind of enclosed, so that probably would not help in those situations. It does look like the Fire Discipline enhancement, which adds sustained hits to ranged weapons, so that's another little Tabletop tie-in there. For Tier 5 perks, we have the Designated Target. Enemies hit by the servo gun take string 1 more damage for string 2 seconds. It would need to be pretty good damage to make this worth using, but now we know that the servo gun is mainly AI aimed with a little bit of player interference. This might actually be a bit better than we assumed it to be when these perks were data mined. Inexplorable Salvo. While the servo gun is active, you do not lose control upon taking heavy hits and you cannot be knocked back. No knockback is always quite nice in Space Marine 2, and this does give us a little hint in that if you are activating the gun, you can get stunned out of it. It also implies that if you can get stunned out of using the gun, then there must be some sort of player control to the aiming or usage of the gun that is to be stunned out of. Next, Synergistic Arsenal. Servo gun recharge rate increases by string when you are near a Tarantula Sentry gun. This increases the charge of the class ability. These are always pretty good options to take as perks in this game, so that sounds pretty nice. Moving on to tier 6, we have Augmented Ammunition Feed. The servo gun recharges string faster. Again, probably 15-20%. It's another class ability recharge, but this one you just don't need to be near the Tarantula Sentry gun. Unsure if it will stack with the Synergistic Arsenal as well, so maybe if you're in range of a Tarantula and you have the Augmented Ammunition Feed, maybe you'll get like a good solid 40% increase in the recharge rate. Next is the Augmented Tarantula. Tarantula Sentry gun damage increases by string 1 and ammo increases by string 2. This sounds pretty good. Increase in damage is always nice, plus the ammo. There has been talk about whether this would be worth taking depending on how long it takes to repair a Tarantula and if it takes you out of battle, but there has been this quote from Saber saying the Techmarine has a passive ability to restore Tarantula Sentry guns that can spawn on existing PvE levels, which implies that the repair is passive and you don't have to stop shooting and stop defending while you repair the Sentry gun. I imagine it's similar to on this picture, where you can interact with the Sentry gun to initiate the repair, and then you just have to stay within range of it, so your servo arm can just stay attached, but you can still turn and shoot, and just don't go away too far, otherwise you'll detach. Next is Replenishing Salvo. Killing an enemy with the servo gun restores string 1 equipment, cooldown is string 2 seconds. So this will depend on how much player control you have on the servo gun. So if you can actively change who it's targeting or influence who it's targeting, or if it's just completely AI controlled, it might be a little iffy. But with the automatic gun strikes that the servo gun does, it does sound pretty nice. And you do get infinite grenades. Unsure if this includes melter bombs, but it doesn't say it doesn't, so infinite melter bombs. Pretty good. Moving on to tier 7, we have the counter-offensive protocols. After using a servo gun, melee damage increases by string 1 for string 2 seconds. I assume from the wording of after using the servo gun, this is after the player activates the servo gun for various special shots or abilities. Would be cool to know if gunstrike counts as using the servo gun, as that is also an automatic thing that the gun does. Fortifying Salvo. Killing enemies with the servo gun restores string 1 armor segments. Armor regen is normally pretty top tier in this game, and it's probably 1 segment for 15 to 30 seconds. It is a string armor segment, so it could be 2 potentially, and kind of replace the armor regen boost items. It sounds nice for siege waves, and if AI aimed, then it will prio target low health enemies over closest, unless the prio overrides for specific enemy types. If you need to kill the enemies with a player ability rather than just random servo shots or gun strikes, it might be a little finicky, because you'll have to remember to do it when you're low on armor. This kind of looks back to the Artificer armor enhancement on Tabletop, which gives the Techmarine a 2+ save and a Feel No Pain 5+. But again, armor regen in Space Marine 2 is super nice to have, so we'll probably see this one being used in most builds. Strategic Gun Strike. Servo gun only targets string 1 Majoris level or higher enemies and deals string 2 more damage when the target is more than string 3 meters away. So this would be really good. Unsure from the title if this is only on gun strikes or if that's just the name and it's just all of the targeting targets Majoris rather than Minoris. So the AI targeting override to Majoris is pretty good for support, and it would mean less frantic need for the player to special button to crowd control Majoris. If the AI previously was just aiming at the closest enemy, which probably Minoris swarm units, then this would be pretty nice, as killing the Majoris Tyranids, for example, do stun the Minoris Tyranids nearby. It's probably a 15 to 20% damage increase if at range, probably just outside of melee, probably not too far away. I'm unsure of the range that they're going to give the Forge Bolter. It is 24 inches on Tabletop, so it could be pretty decent in the game. This would be pretty nice for getting a small stagger on Majoris shooting units while you deal with 10 million Minoris swarm units in melee. The last tier, tier 8 perks, we have Decapitating Stratagem. killing or incapacitating string 1 Majoris level or higher enemies with the servo gun regenerates its ability charge by string 2, and its cooldown is string 3 seconds. So this is another ability recharge, which is pretty good. Sounds like it would work well with the strategic gunstrike, and the cooldown is probably 15 to 30 seconds, which is kind of the average for tier 8 timed perks. Lethal Perimeter, the servo gun marks a zone and automatically attacks enemies that enter it using string less energy per shot. We don't know if this zone is automatic or also special button. There seems to be a lot of special buttons with the sniper or the plasma or this zone targeting, so unsure if there's gonna be some extra buttons for the Forge Bolter, or if some perks will get kind of grayed out and you can't pick them if you already have a special use perk button upgrade selected. If this is a random zone, then unsure how useful this will be. How far away is it going to put the zone? Is it the direct zone around your character? It's kind of unsure right now. Next is Omnissiah's Fury. The servo gun shots set enemies on fire. Fire is great in Space Marine 2, so this could be pretty good. Not much to say on this, it's fire. Then some of the most important perks, the team perks. Reinforced Position. All squad members within string 1 meters of an active Tarantula Sentry turret take string 2 less damage and deal string 3 more damage. This will encourage your team to stay together around the sentry, but in Tabletop, sentries generally have Deadly Demise. If you don't play Tabletop, then Deadly Demise is where some models have Deadly Demise X listed in their abilities. When such a model is destroyed, roll 1d6 before removing it from play. On a 6, each unit within 6 inches of that model suffers a number of mortal wounds denoted by X. So essentially, does it explode when it dies? And if it does, do you get friendly fire from it? This does also bring the question of if there's a Vengeance of the Omnissiah passive boost, potentially, where the Omniscient Axe increases its attacks when a nearby vehicle has been destroyed. On Tabletop, this increases the attacks to 7. It's almost a double increase on the attacks that it can do. This would be kind of cool to have in-game, to have a kind of ×2 multiplier for a certain time after a sentry is destroyed, as long as you're near it. But I can see that not being added into the game, as you probably don't want the sentries to be destroyed, and if they do get destroyed, the game would rather give you a punishment, such as Deadly Demise, rather than a ×2 melee boost. The next team perk is Battlefield Repairs. All squad members fully regenerate their armor and gain string additional armor segments when using Medicae stims. This sounds nice, but there are a few questions I have about this, like does it only affect the guy using the stim? Or all squad members regen armor and gain 1 to 2 additional armor segments? Or is it if someone in the squad uses a stim, then everyone in the squad also regens their armor? It does say all squad members fully regen when using Medicae stims, but it doesn't specify only the person using the stim gets that regen, or if the entire team also gets that regen when one person uses a stim. That would be probably pretty OP, so it's probably just the person using the stim gets the armor boost. If there's no range, and the regen is not just the guy using the stim, then it would practically replace the armor boost items, which would be pretty nice for resource saving in Siege, if you are one to buy armor boosts in Siege. This is potentially a stand-in for the Blessing of the Omnissiah ability on Tabletop, but with armor regen instead of wounds. The last team perk is the Combat Squad Resupply. All squad members gain string additional equipment except melter bombs. You just gain extra grenades. I assume this means that you can carry more than 3 at a time, but most people want melter bombs, so it kind of sucks that this excludes them. So they seem kind of good in terms of equipment regen and possible crowd control. In the lore, they tend to have a field generator as an optional shield. It would be cool to have this as a perk, maybe like a low health ignore next 3 hits or something, but I don't know how solid these data mined perks are. More often than not in the lore, they have a servo arm for melee to grab and yeet. From the Xbox article the other day, we do see a servo arm, but there's nothing saying that it does melee damage, so I think it's just for repairing the sentries. They also like overcharging their weapons, so Arc Cleave makes sense for melee since overcharge is already a base thing for plasma pistols, for example. And fun fact about Techmarines, they aren't generally deployed in frontline battles because they're too valuable, so it just kind of shows how dire the situation is in Space Marine 2 for them to be deployed like this. So looking at the data mined weapons list, for primary weapons, bolt rifle, heavy bolt rifle, Oculus bolt carbine, and the plasma exterminator, which has been confirmed to be the plasma incinerator that we already have in-game. On Tabletop, a Techmarine normally comes with 2 servitors who carry heavy weapons, a heavy bolter, a multi-melter, or a plasma cannon. So it sounds like they've just taken the primaries from the servitors, which is fine. It's a cool way to give them a weapon rather than a pistol and melee, so they aren't just another assault class. Would be nice to see the multi-melter and the plasma cannon added to their in-game options, or maybe access to the flamer. The plasma incinerator is a small handheld version of a plasma cannon, so I'm kind of fine with them just having that instead of a plasma cannon. A plasma cannon might be something more for a heavy class in Space Marine 2, but the heavy do already have the plasma incinerator, which is technically statistically better than a plasma cannon, at least on tabletop. In Legends, Techmarines have conversion beamers, which would be sick to see, but it was only wielded by a Master of the Forge with rare exceptions, so it would be very main character energy to have one in here. Plus, it was put to Legends, so I doubt Games Workshop would allow it to be put in this game unless there was plans to unlegends it for 11th edition. For secondary weapons, we only have the Plasma Pistol and the Inferno Pistol as per the data mined list. The default on tabletop is a Bolt Pistol or a Grav Pistol for a Primaris Techmarine, so it would be cool to see a Grav Pistol or a Grav Cannon for primary weapon to be added, and maybe we'll see things like the Hellfrost Pistol as an appearance or as a heroic weapon. For melee, we have the Power Axe and a Power Halberd. The Power Halberd has been confirmed to be the Omniscient Axe, and we have this picture of it. They could potentially add the Power Axe to Bulwark so we can RP Matoris. That would be kind of fun, but I kind of doubt that they're going to give Bulwark some more weapons. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Thunderhammer in here, since the tabletop servo arm is basically a Thunderhammer stats-wise. Potentially again having a Tempest Hammer appearance to go with the Hellfrost Pistol appearance, keeping the whole Space Wolf Techmarine vibe going. Same for the Axe of Medusa appearance for the Omniscient Axe. That would be really cool to see, to have some Sons of Medusa RP going on. Could potentially also have the Axe of Medusa as a heroic or the Halberd. The tabletop default loadout is usually a Power Axe or a Chainsword for melee, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were added in here as well. They also are allowed to take a Lightning Claw, a Power Fist, Power Lance, Power Maul, or a Power Sword, but I doubt they'd give the Techmarine 9 options for melee, since historically Techmarine is range priority in terms of battle tactics and positioning. The servo gun in tabletop is usually a Forge Bolter or a Heavy Bolter, but likely in the game it won't have the same output as a primary Heavy Bolter that we know already in the game, so I imagine they will call it a servo gun or Forge Bolter and have a lesser damage on that. With the Techmarines having special weapons depending on the chapter, that would be cool to see as well, like I said with the Space Wolves with their frost weapons. In the old Blood Angels Codex, Techmarines were also able to equip a jump pack, so maybe we can see some of the Techmarine weapons added also to the Assault class. Would have been cool to have more references to other Techmarine specials like the Iron Hands Fortis Pattern Data Spike to increase the passive repair speed of the Sentries, or Machine Empathy as a game rule so a Sentry can only be repaired or resurrected once unless Techmarine has Machine Empathy perk. It would probably never happen in the game, but if they brought out a Librarian class, there are some Grey Knight Techmarines who are also Librarians, which would sound like cool gameplay mechanics with etheric conduits that could be placed for various buffs around the map. And if they ever add titles to the game, then Master of Forge and Master of Machines would be sick. So looking at the Tarantula turrets, I've been asked from a tabletop standpoint, what are they? How do they work? How do I think they will work in Space Marine 2? I did briefly mention at the start of the video that they do have quite low health. They have 2 wounds. They are quite fragile, and we don't really have much outside of the perks of how the Techmarine interacts with them from what they will look like. On tabletop, the first point to bring is that there is no movement. They sit on the battlefield and they shoot things that come into range. They're pretty weak with 2 wounds, but the idea is to keep things back with its 48-inch missile weapons, and I think it has a 24-inch regular gun options as well. For reference, the average range infantry weapon is 12 to 24 inches, so you would be trying to keep things at that range or killing them before they get within that 24 inches. It is confirmed that they will have multiple spawn points on maps, but which ones they spawn on and how many can spawn is still unknown. In-game, they're pretty versatile in weapon types that can be equipped. Unsure if there will be a separate perk tree for your sentries, so you can essentially give them a weapons loadout. Probably not though, they're probably just random in what they spawn with. So in Space Marine 2, it will be more or less sentry guns exist on maps and either activate when a Techmarine is within a certain range of them to turn them on, or they're just always on, but I doubt they're always on, otherwise they might accidentally clear the next room of the map because the spawns spawn in its range. Would be better gameplay if it was like stepping stones through a map, where you activate one, clear an area, run out of ammo or dies, and then you move on to the next one. Weapons-wise, on tabletop, for a default Tarantula, you have a few options. The twin-linked Heavy Bolter, the twin-linked Volkite Culverin, the twin-linked Las Cannon, the Sentry Melter Array, Hyporius Missile Launcher, and a Aureus frag launcher with a 2-missile limit, which is generally single use on tabletop. I imagine it'll be a generic machine gun style sentry like a heavy bolter, but it would be cool to see the other weapons, but I wouldn't bet on it unless they do let you have different loadouts, or at least have different loadouts depending on the map or the area that they're in. Tarantulas normally also come with a augury scanner. For those who don't play tabletop, an augury scanner essentially lets you unveil stealthed enemies, which would be useful for lictors and other stealthed enemies. But it would mean that if you do want them to unveil the stealth enemies, you do have to stay within range of the augury scanner around the tarantula. Unsure how big that range would be, but I'd love to see it be implemented. It would also be cool to have like the field generator from the Legends Techmarine be deployed on a sentry as a short bubble shield or an upgrade perk for the tarantula if we can set the loadout for them, potentially swapping the augury scanner with the field generator maybe. Also to do with the loadout, on tabletop it has a choice of 2 traits which would essentially be its perks in Space Marine 2. First we have the anti-tank trait, where the sentry will fire at the closest eligible enemy detachment containing walkers, vehicles, super heavy vehicles, knights or titans, and any weapon with the light trait at the closest enemy infantry or cavalry detachment. In Space Marine 2, this would be a perk to prioritize Majoris enemies. There are no vehicles as such, apart from Hellbrutes, but Majoris would make sense for infantry or cavalry units. They would still shoot Minoris enemies, but only if there are no priority targets in range. The other trait is Skyfire, where the controlling player may choose to target the nearest detachment with the Flyer special rule instead. The only flyers in Space Marine 2 are Zoanthorps and Neurothorps, Spore Mines, Enlightened Zangors, and Sorcerers, so it would be helpful to have the weapon prioritizing these, but unsure if you would ever get enough of these in a map for this to be worth having. But people hate the Disc Zangors, so it would be pretty good for those. Also, we did have Gargoyles in the campaign missions, but they are only in the campaign missions, but there's always a chance that they'll bring them to Siege, or at least the new operations map. In terms of how I think the Techmarine will play, on tabletop they are short to mid-ranged gun-based with a little power in melee. On the table this is kind of equaled out by really good vehicle repairs, so you want to keep them on your back lines near the tanks and other long-range artillery. For context, their default loadout is a 24-inch range Forge Bolter, which is the servo gun, and the 12-inch range Grav Pistol. From the data mined perks that we've just gone through, it does look like a ranged focus support class with average melee, although we don't know the stats for the Power Axe or the Halberd, which is confirmed again to be the Omniscient Axe. At their core, Techmarines in Space Marine 2 are specialists in crowd control and area defense. They'll shine with their combat prowess as much as they do with the technology they bring to the fight. In melee, they are able to take on large groups of enemies with wide swipes of their Omniscient Axe, an upcoming patch 12 weapon available to them only, while their arsenal and armor augmentations grant them solid efficiency in ranged combat, especially at short to medium distances. Like all classes, the Techmarine comes with a unique combat skill, an ult so to speak, and his own perk tree with 25 levels to unlock. But more than anything, what makes him special are the mechanical arms and automated turret bolted directly onto his power pack. Like I said, he is a crowd control support class, and also having a really good cleave on that Omniscient Axe, which is super cool, and confirmed solid in ranged, but from the images we can see a servo arm to go with the servo gun, but this is, again, probably only for repairing or interacting with the tarantula turrets rather than being a melee weapon. While you're busy swinging and smashing opponents around with your mechanical arm, your combat skill will put your turret to good use. Activate it with the Y button to unleash the Techmarine's mounted servo gun and rain Divine Retribution onto your enemies with a barrage of heavy fire. No need to aim, just watch as Tyranids and Thousand Suns get vaporized before your very eyes. So this kind of confirms that the turret is AI aimed unless activated by the player, but it does sound that it isn't aimed by the player either after you activate it, it is just still AI aimed. I'm also unfamiliar with the Xbox controls, so I don't know if Y is the class ability button or the heavy stance extra zoom button, so we'll see. Another feature of the automatic servo gun is that it frees you up by executing gun strikes for you. When other classes must do it themselves following perfect dodge or parries, Techmarine players will be free to continue aiming at other targets while their turrets stagger or kill the most pressing assailants. So this is the other thing that I was considering, the auto gun strikes. I wasn't sure if they would add this. It is a pretty nice mechanic. It is kind of a shame that it does it for you. It is a fun kind of little quick time mechanic in the game. I can see this being really nice in absolute and hard stratagems and higher level siege waves where you don't really want to stop what you're doing to manually gun strike something. This also confirms a stagger on the Forge Bolter bullets, which is really nice. And that's not even everything. With Techmarines being master engineers and technicians, within their chapter ranks comes a unique ability to locate and service Tarantula Sentry turrets during missions. Though they can't be carried or placed freely, these can provide much welcome support to your combat squad by attacking your enemies automatically until they either run out of ammunition or get destroyed. So essentially I'm expecting a high ammo or rate of fire for low health unit for the Tarantula, or a low ammo or low rate of fire with high health for that Sentry. I would probably lean towards the high rate of fire, not too much, but not too little ammo reserves, and low health since the Techmarine in range will do passive healing on it anyway. Let me know if you have any more questions, or if I missed an announcement where something was covered that I've missed, and subscribe if you want more content like this. Thanks for watching, see ya!